Evening, sir.
How's it going, Greg?
I can't complain and won't.
That him?
Yep, might just be some crackpot, but I figured I should call you anyway.
Did he ask for me by name?
Nope, asked for the agent in charge of the guard's hand. Okay, he said he had some important info on it.
Didn't say what.
Okay, retro go. Fire, go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies and specifically talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 288. We're kicking off Spooky Month with the GORE crew, and we're watching Frailty from 2001. And joining me from the GORE podcast, the Wicked Kitten, always getting into mischief, it's Monica.
Good evening, and welcome to Wait, You Haven't Seen GORE?
That works. That works. Also, we have the endearing, the ethereal Faye.
Hi.
And lastly, it's Dread.
Oh, well, hello there. You can still hear me because Travis might have turned me off. I don't know. He's mean.
So we do this every year. The four of us do GORE as the tagline of that is a horror podcast to keep you up at night. And every year I bring the three of you on and we do a full month of movies at least one of us haven't seen before. So I want to go around the room and get a little bit of history with this movie. Starting, Dread, with you. Had you seen this before, or do you remember this coming out? What kind of history do you have with the movie Frailty at all?
I have absolutely no history whatsoever with this movie, except the poster looks familiar, so I'm fairly sure I've seen it somewhere.
Okay. Faye, how about you?
None whatsoever. 2001 was not a good year for me.
All right, fair enough. Were either of you familiar with the movie at all? Like, what, Dredd, you said that you had maybe seen the poster somewhere. Faye, do you remember this being a thing at all?
Not then, but in the last couple of years, I recognized some of the clips from some documentary shows.
Okay. Monica, how about you? Did you have any history with this one?
I thought this movie was a different movie that I hadn't seen. There's another movie and there's kids in it, and I think it has to do with a signal, and I think Gary Sinise is in that, and I don't remember, but so I had not seen this movie before.
Are you thinking of Frequency by chance?
Maybe that's it.
With Jim Caviezel and Dennis
sense.
Quaid, I think, is in that.
Maybe it's Dennis Quaid.
And it kind of
it also
sort of
starts with FR.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. So none of you had seen this movie.
Nope.
So I remember this one coming out. I did not see it in theaters. I remember the box at the Suncoast Video that I worked at a lot. And I did rent it. I think so. It hit festivals in 2001 and it was officially released in 2001, but it didn't get a theatrical until 2002. So it took a little bit of time. It was kind of a smaller movie. It was only an $11 million budget making it. And it only made something like 13 in the States and 17 total worldwide. Like it didn't have a huge release. It just kind of came and went, which is a bit of a bummer because I do think this is kind of an underrated and underseen movie. But I do remember renting it because I saw Bill Paxton was in it and Matthew McConaughey. And I'm like, all right, sure. This looks interesting. And I absolutely loved it. So what I want to know is I'll start, Monica, with you. You watched it for the first time. Thinking it was a different movie completely. So that may play into this. I don't know. What did you think just as a movie, getting done watching it? How was it?
I thought it was a good movie. It was, well made for Bill Paxton's first movie, by the way, or directing.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was well made. there was a lot that I really liked about this movie. I'm gonna point out the kids just immediately because I really like kid actors. It's a crapshoot, and I thought those kids were pretty good. Like they were on the ball there. So
yeah, definitely. And I kind of want to dive into their performances and Paxton's a little bit more. But so overall, you liked it. Doesn't sound like it really kind of knocked your socks off necessarily, but you thought it was well made.
Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. I had obvious, like, you know, regular issues because it's like a religious movie, so you know it gave me those feelings, made me think of like Saint Maud and stuff. So it, you know,
I can see that.
It's complicated, right?
Sure.
Religion is always a complicated thing.
It is. Faye, how about you? After watching it, what did you think, just overall?
Overall, I thought it was fine. I really didn't have any major gripes with it. The acting was good. The story was interesting, and the way that it played with things, I did enjoy instead of just going straight one way or the other.
Dread, how about you?
Overall, I liked it. Like from the beginning, the look and feel of the good old 90s thriller movies, like the you know, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, those kind of movies. And then the whole flashback storytelling with the kids.
Yes.
I was like, hell yeah, I'm in, because I didn't expect that.
So
really good.
Good. Okay. So 3 for 3, you enjoyed or you liked the movie as a movie. Before we go too much into what the movie is about and kind of where it goes, I'm just going to let everybody know this is a 20-plus-year-old movie, but we're going to spoil the hell out of it, and there are twists in here. So if you care about that, go watch it first. It's streaming on a couple of, I think, Tubi for free. It's also via the Hoopla digital app. If you have a library card, you can get it there. So if you do actually care, go watch it, then come back and listen to us, because there's really no way to talk about this movie without spoiling some stuff that it does, that I think it does really well. Having said that, Monica, you mentioned the acting, especially the kids. Those two kids were so good in very different ways too, right? Because you had, it was Jeremy Sumpter plays young Adam, and where's his name? Matt O'Leary is young Fenton. And what I liked was Matt O'Leary had his performance as Fenton was really good because he had that perfect amount of like kind of young teen sort of, I might know more than my dad, or my dad's gone a little bit crazy. And like the butting of heads of those two was really, really good. Whereas Adam, being the younger, he's much more naive and much more just willing to follow his dad and believe whatever his dad says, because I think it's kind of really interesting how it's just the three of them. That's the family unit there is. And there's no talk about what happened to mom or any of that, because it really, for this story, almost is irrelevant why she's not there. That's just that there is no mom. There is the three of them, and there's no other family. Not even just not a mom. There's no extended family. Which is really, I think, important to how this story unfolds, that there isn't. But those two kids, man, and you're right, kid actors, it is always a crapshoot. You never know. They could be decent, but I fully believed both of them.
Yeah, they felt like brothers.
And
Like
and I think,
honestly, all three of them felt like an actual family.
yeah. And you identified with
Fenton. Which is my problem with the movie, by the way. I feel weird now.
But that makes, we'll get there, but that whole thing really makes this movie, I think, more than what it was, because at the end of it, now you're questioning a lot, while they're also like they give you a lot of answers, and it still makes you feel a little strange and like, wait a minute, but hold on now. Which I really like that they did that. But Faye, to your point, they did feel like a family, because, and I love this, Dad, who is just credited as his dad. He's never given a name. He's just in the credits. He's Dad Meeks. But Bill Paxton is so good as the dad because he genuinely cares for and loves his boys. And he's kind of got this like kind of goofy dad thing going on while at the same time being completely batshit crazy. And in a lot of ways, really emotionally abusive to Fenton, especially.
Oh,
But yet, like he still really cares for the kid and he really loves his son. And it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like that fake, like abusive parent that loves their child. And you put giant air quotes around that because they're treating them like crap. He is abusive. It's so weird. It's just a strange way that it went about it.
Yeah.
Which I think makes
it's super complicated. Because if you think about it, like real abusive parents, they probably think they're doing the right thing when they're doing their things. And that's kind of scary.
It is. Yeah. But also like at the same time, we find out by the end of the movie, that's kind of not wrong? ? But he is, but he isn't, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it seems that his powers are showing him actually bad people. Not necessarily that they're demons, but they're bad people.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I want to get there because these reveals at the end are really cool, but I don't want to jump the gun too much on like this cast because it's such a small movie that your cast really has to. It's a few actors that have to do the heavy lifting, right? Because you don't have a bunch of set pieces. You don't have there's no action to carry the story. So it's all in the acting and the cinematography. And it's really those three. And then you add on, you've got Matthew McConaughey. And he was Matthew McConaughey by this point, but he wasn't the superstar necessarily. He was on the rise. He was well known, but he wasn't like, I don't know. He hadn't quite peaked yet. Man, is he good. I really like his performance in this.
Yeah. There was a scene where he was just like sitting there shirtless.
Mm-hmm.
It was some great acting. I'm joking. I know he was a good actor throughout the rest of it too, but he looked great.
He's
Very
always
young,
looked good.
yeah.
I mean, come on. You know,
I'm not saying he doesn't look good now.
that's why there's the constant
He
joke of like
looks
him
great now.
not having a shirt on, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
But he's so good. And Dredd, you mentioned that you liked the flashback aspect of like telling the story that way. Do you think that the voiceover part of that and the narration thing was well done?
Yeah, but also I'm a big Stephen King fan. And the moment they did the first flashback and you see the two kids singing that song and just being kids, basically.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was in the 70s, like old style, everything looked oldish.
Mm-hmm.
That felt so Stephen King to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, bring it.
Plus it gives us the ability to have, an anchor point of Matthew McConaughey kind of, because voiceover is always tricky, I think, in a movie to pull off well, because it can become a crutch where they use that to say and not tell, right? It's sort of like putting copy on the screen, putting like words up and just making you like read a crawl at the beginning of the movie to tell you all of your plot points. Star Wars, it worked, but most movies it doesn't. And voiceover can oftentimes kind of be a crutch but this always felt like they used the voiceover as a way to enhance what you were seeing on the screen or give you more of what you were seeing on the screen as opposed to trying to fill in the blanks and tell you what was leading up to that or anything like that. So I think it was a well done voiceover.
Yeah, it was also done in a interview type scenario because they pull them in, they see, they talk, and then they go into the voiceover and the flashback. That works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Instead of the jumping right into a flashback with no exposition, no talking. We don't know who's talking, and it's just there. That's the difference. That's what makes it better, in my eyes.
I can see that, and it had a very Usual Suspects feel to the structure of the movie, where we get a little bit at the beginning of sort of current, and now we're going to tell the story of how we got here. How did Matthew McConaughey show up at this FBI office with an ambulance, apparently? And how did he get here? Well, now he's going to tell the story, but he gives the first part of the story, and I did like where he starts to talk, and he's like, "What? You're doubting me already? You haven't even heard my story yet." Because Powers Booth's character, Powers Booth, also real good. I always loved him. I always liked.
Also has a great name.
Oh, it's a wonderful name. But he always had just a great presence and a really great voice. But he's like, whatever. This is another weirdo that thinks he knows who this serial killer is. And then all right, now I'll tell you the whole story. Now we go back to 1979. I really enjoyed that. But again, it's just that thing where like the voiceover always served the story instead of standing in for the story. It always like just enhanced it in my mind. And that I think is a good use of it. Plus it set us up for the wonderful trope of the unreliable narrator. Because now it's like, how much of this can we believe based on sort of what we learn later?
Everybody take a shot for every time unreliable narrator is mentioned in this episode.
That's one. So
I have it written twice in my notes.
But so the way the story goes is these two boys live with their dad, and then one night their dad has a visit from an angel. He wakes the boys up in the middle of the night to say that an angel visited him and told him that God sent the angel to have them kill demons because it's Judgment Day is coming, and they have been tasked with killing demons using magical weapons. That whole sequence was just bonkers for me. And on top of that, I loved the way that like dad comes in, starts talking to him, and Fenton immediately is like, "You all right, Dad? Are you sure?" Like Fenton's looking at his dad like the cheese has slipped off his cracker. And Adam all in right away. And what does he say? We get to be superheroes. And Dad's like, yeah. And boom, that's all Adam needs to hear. He's in, right? And I thought
this was going to be a supernatural prequel. All of a sudden,
there you go. That would have been interesting. Maybe it is in a headcanon kind of way.
Oh God.
Yeah. The special weapons, a lead pipe and an axe.
I thought they were doing.
Don't forget the gloves.
Yes, thought they were doing gloves. Clue for a bit there with the lead pipe.
Yeah. Next, it'll be a candlestick.
But yeah. I did love the scene where Dad finds the axe, because that's the first of the magical weapons. He's driving along, he just sees the shaft of light hitting that barn, and he's like,
"That was pretty."
And he goes in there, and it's coming through the roof of the barn perfectly on that like log with the axe sticking out of it and the gloves on there. It was so good, because again, at this point, you're still like, this dude's nuts, and he's just seeing stuff, because the whole visit, when he's recounting the visit of the angel, it's just a flash of light. That's it. That's all we get. And
flash of light on a trophy.
Right, on a trophy. Yeah, a shiny trophy. So like, all right, Dad's had an aneurysm and or stroke. And now he thinks God visited him and told him to kill demons. That's wonderful. Thanks, Dad. And so but I loved when he finds the axe. And this was a piece of trivia I thought was kind of cool. The axe has the name Otis etched into it. Mm-hmm. There's never a reason given for why it's Otis, either in the movie or as part of the script or anything like that. There was two bits of trivia that I found funny with that. One was some people theorized that Otis was Dad's name, even though it's never said. They're like, oh, maybe his name's Otis. The other one, which was a bigger stretch, but again, this is one of those fan theory things that always makes me chuckle, was it was an acronym for Only the Innocent Survive. In reality,
That
you know,
or
where,
it's just the name of the original owner.
yeah. Well, and in reality, you know where it came from? Bill Paxton was, he was visiting one of the locations they were going to film in, and he was talking to a homeless man whose name was Otis, and he wanted to use his name. He just thought it was a cool name.
Yeah.
And so he paid the guy some money to use his name in the movie. And he put, it was Paxton's idea to put that on the axe and have it in there. It wasn't part of the script. He was just like,
Cool.
because then it made that thing, when you see it at the end of the movie, it makes it feel like an heirloom that was being passed down. And so it kind of lends more gravitas to it as sort of just a thing. And I just thought that was cool. I thought it was a neat story of where he found the name Otis. Was he was just talking to some homeless guy and was like, that's a cool name. Can I use it? So,
It's nice that he paid to use it. He would honestly didn't really have to.
there was something about, I read, and I can't find it now, but it was something about he wanted to give the guy some money at first, and the guy like refused. So he said, well, let me pay you to use your name in my movie then. And that's how it came about. So,
that's awesome. Good on him.
I like that. I also liked, throughout the movie, Dad's drinking beer all the time. Like he comes home from work every night and he has this can of beer, right? And it was, what was
As
it?
dads did in that time.
Ham's beer. And it was Ham's. It was a specific old school Ham's can from like 79, which probably I'm guessing is a Texas beer because the whole movie's set in Texas. They only had one of those cans. That was the only one they could find. So they just used the same one throughout shooting. So they got one and they opened it once off camera and recorded the sound of it popping. And then they would just use that over and over. And he would just carry the same can around. And I just thought that was funny. I love little nuggets like that when you're making some, because like it's not a beer brand I have ever heard of before, but that was Dad's brand of beer. So I love little things like that. So as things go on, we get the more and more, like they start going after the demons, right? Because he gets the list, which that was another scene. That was a scene I forgot. What did you think, Monica, of the scene where he gets the original list of names from the angel while he's working? Were you expecting that? Because I forgot completely about it.
Okay, like can I say I laughed at the angel's face?
Yeah, absolutely. It's ridiculous.
Like that was just, there was something so, I guess, of that time CGI kind of thing. Like it was just funny. I'm sorry. I started laughing and that just added to mine. Like this dude is out of his friggin' mind.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Were any of you prepared? Like what, Dredd, were you ready for that scene to pop up the way they did? Because like I said, I completely forgot and I started laughing too.
I don't think anyone is prepared for that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're doing this. Okay, I can see the thing was cool where the car changes into the ceiling of a
Yeah.
it was a church, right?
Looked like a church,
that was cool. And then you see someone coming down. Okay, we're doing this. Okay. Then I see the face. I'm like, are you like a little cherub guy? It's very creepy in a way. But you're supposed to be an angel. You shouldn't be creepy, right?
Well, it's hard to say, but
yeah,
I mean,
biblical angels.
Yeah, that's true.
It looked more like a Roman guard than like an angel. You know what I mean?
Kind of. But it was one of those things where the movie is really playing with you throughout most of it. Of Dad's crazy, and he's clearly lost it. He's not holding it together very well, and it's getting worse. And that was like the original visit from the angel was odd, but it was whatever. But as it went along, now he has the full-on vision of an angel, and then now I've got a list of names, and these are names of real people. And I just loved how that played out and how it built up, where Fenton is continuously like, this guy's nuts. Dad, what is wrong with you? And his dad's like, you just don't believe hard enough. Because that right there was the scary stuff, because there's people that really feel that way. That's how your Westboro Baptist churches and your like all these cults happen, is you don't believe hard enough, and that's why you're not seeing the things that we are telling you about. And the dad is telling his kids that. And I liked in the voiceover him talking about things like, I should have gone and told somebody about it. I tried to, but I was afraid. And he's like, he's afraid of his dad, but he also loves his dad. And that's a tough spot for a kid to be in, because when he finally does get the nerve up to go tell the sheriff, what happens?
Yeah. He gets treated like he's crazy.
Yeah. The sheriff doesn't believe him at all. Like not a bit. And there's zero reason for that kid to make up that story about his father, that elaborate of a story. But the sheriff thinks he does, and isn't even going to entertain it, but he's so adamant about it. And that scene around the table with the sheriff and dad, when he's like,
oh my God,
does this need to happen? And he looks at the kid, and it's like, oh my Lord. Like, you're basically telling the kid, you just killed this police officer. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I did enjoy how he asked the police officer, or he was like saying, well, I hate that my kid told all the guys at the station this. And it's like, oh no, it was just me. Don't worry about it. Oh no.
You don't even understand. You're going to be murdered.
But
hey, don't tell anybody, because someone will die.
And credit to dad for being clever in that way. Like that's a clever way to get that information. I'm sorry he's coming down to your station and telling everybody these crazy stories. Oh, no. It's just me. Oh, really? But I even liked, kind of backing up a little bit, I liked the morning after he tells the boys about the visit from the angel the first time. Then the next morning, it's like nothing happened. And that's sort of kind of what I'm talking about. With
you could see the kid think, did I dream this? Because everyone's acting normal. And then they arrive at school, and dad is like, hey, oh shit, it happened.
Word.
Yeah. But like the whole drive to school, everything's normal. And he's like, by the way, don't tell anybody what I told you last night. It's like, oh shit. All right. So that did happen. Cool. And then just the escalation of
creeper
everything.
Van.
Yeah. Then he buys the creeper van. I want one of those though. That van was cool. I mean, I don't want a white windowless one.
Yeah.
I'd paint it different, but like the old style Chevy vans like that were just cool looking vans. I'd put like a big Chevy mural on the side of it. But you get like, then you start getting other things that are making the dad seem even crazier, right? Like the whole, God will protect us and make it so people can't see us doing his work. When they take the second guy in broad daylight, and the kid's like, Dad, it's broad daylight. People are going to see us. He's like, don't worry about it. That won't happen. And then he kind of forces the kid to help him, which I thought was, again, it's pretty rough. But nobody does see him. And that was one of those things where, as the movie goes on, Dad gets crazier and crazier. Fenton gets more and more against him, and Adam is just all about it. Like Adam just wants to be involved all the time. Here was something, I'm wondering if any of you noticed this. Every time they capture, 3 or 4 demons, right? What they consider demons. There's the woman, then the old man, then the young kid, and that's before the sheriff. And then there was the sheriff, and then there was the guy that was yelling at his wife.
Yeah.
The guy that I said, get him.
Right.
At that point, he needs to go, demon or not.
So what's interesting is the first 3 are, we don't know anything, right? It's the woman, and we don't see her until Dad comes home late at night, and he's carrying her over his shoulder. He's got her like in a burlap sack. And she's already bound and gagged. And so we don't see anything with her lead up at all. Then the old man, we only see him go into the store and come back out. And the kid, the younger one, is probably like a young 18, 20-year-old something. He's literally shown like thrown on the floor in their little storm cellar. That's the one where Fenton runs to the cops after that. All three of them, we don't get any backstory. We don't get any lead up. They're already captured, brought in. And then we have the scene with the sheriff. And then the fifth guy, he definitely deserved what was going on because we saw what kind of a person he was beforehand.
Yep.
Did you notice, though, the lack of blood in all those killings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a little bit of blood from the beating.
Sheriff. Well, yes, when he hit him with the pipe. Yeah. When he would subdue them and bring them, but when he would attack them with the axe, there was none. There wasn't even blood on the axe. Except with the sheriff. The sheriff there was, because if you notice after the sheriff, they take him to the Rose Garden to bury him, and Dad's shirt is covered in blood, and he's got to wipe the axe off and all that. But all the demons, the bad people, didn't have that, which I thought was an interesting thing. I didn't notice until this watch through, because I've seen this a couple times now, and this is a movie that is intentionally made to give you more clues if you rewatch it. And so I do recommend, if you enjoyed the first time through, watch it again, because you'll pick up on a bunch of more, a lot of breadcrumbs and a lot of like foreshadowing that Paxton hid in there. And that was kind of one of those things. I thought that was really cool because it was already a fairly low, like all the violence happens basically off screen or they cut away right before anything happens. So it's all done through everyone's reactions. That's where the horror comes from, is you're seeing them reacting to what's going on. But I thought it was an interesting thing that there's no blood either. Even when Fenton finally turns on him and puts the axe into him, you just see the axe sticking out of his dad. But you don't actually see, there's no blood or anything.
I thought there was some blood on the shirt around the axe.
I don't remember there being. I'd have to go back and look.
It looked like it was dried blood, but blood.
I mean,
or maybe my brain's just putting it in there.
That's the other thing. Like they kept it so
clean.
Like like they let your mind fill in the holes. Mm-hmm. So thinking back of my 1.5 viewings of this, like I can't even think about the blood. So the next time I watch it, I'm gonna have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, look at that, because I found that interesting. Like oftentimes, especially something R-rated, if somebody gets attacked with an axe, you would at least have some kind of like backlash, some sort of spatter or splatter, right? Something in the background, but there's none on any of the kids. There's no after effect at all on those.
In most horror movies, it's like you're showering in that blood.
Sure. Yeah. So I found that really interesting. And I also, so everything leads up. We get the whole thing with the sheriff, which that was a really powerful scene, right? Like, because that's where that emotional abuse really hits afterwards, where he's blaming Fenton for the fact that he took an axe to the sheriff and telling him, like, you made me
ever kill the person.
Right. You made me murder someone. You made me murder them. I might have captured that. I might play that in a minute. And Fenton, like, I didn't make you do anything. Like, it's rough. And then you follow that up with, he locks him in that basement, like nails it shut on him. Ugh, that was awful.
That was the biggest thing of abuse in that movie by dad.
Far. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he got a glass of water a day, though.
Yeah, for 7 days.
A whole glass of water.
Part through the little hole in the floor.
That's awful.
Oh, and this is after he made him dig the hole for the basement in the first place that they built. Which I loved Fenton's dealing with that, because he gets in there, starts digging the hole, and his brother comes out and he's like, look, he can make me dig this hole. He can't make me pray. And like, I'm just going to do this in defiance of him because whatever type of stuff.
And without gloves.
Oh,
Yeah. You can't make me wear gloves.
Oh, that was, I hate it. Yeah. Blisters and calluses
just
all over
made
his
him hate God,
mm-hmm.
which was there's another line I liked in there. I can't remember it exactly, but he said something about hating his God or.
I think I captured that too. Something about by day 7, it was as dark as my hate for Dad's God, I think is what it was.
Yeah. That was good.
So before I play some audio, because I did capture some stuff, there's some really good dialogue, some really good lines in this. Twists. Okay. Twists in a horror movie. Question. Start with Faye, because I might know the answer to this. I'm not sure. Did you see any of them coming?
I expected twists.
Mm-hmm.
The twist that he was the other brother. No, not at all. I expected it, but I didn't think that, that specific.
Okay.
It's funny. I thought of Faye, by the way, at the end of the movie. I'm like, there's no way Faye got this one. It's like nobody could have gotten this.
The fact that he was right all along, yes. The fact that he was the other brother, no.
Yeah. The other brother one was the one, yeah. That's the one that, because they lied to me.
And that right there is one of those where on subsequent watches, you pick up on a lot of it. It completely changes Matthew McConaughey's performance now. And there's certain scenes where when you think he's Fenton, you read it a particular way. And then when you know that it's Adam pretending to be Fenton, you now see that completely differently. And I love stuff like that. I love a movie that does that.
Yeah, like a reversible jacket.
You see the nervousness that he's giving. It's not nervousness that he's there with the cop. It's the nervousness that he might get caught not knowing that he's the other brother.
Yeah.
That's how I view it afterwards.
So, yeah,
which is why he was so calm with putting the cuffs on.
Well, and that's the interesting thing, right? Because he reveals, oh no, I'm Adam. I'm not Fenton, which is a good twist. But then you go from that right into, and I'm here for you. I brought you here, FBI guy, because the breadcrumb we set up of talking about your mom early on and the fact that he was focused on that and all that. No, I'm here because you were on my list. Was a great secondary twist. And then to find out that backstory, which that is, if I just told you on like, oh yeah, and then this guy gets revealed to be a killer, blah, 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 that sounds really stupid and it shouldn't work. But the way they did it in this, they pulled it off.
It was intelligent. Yeah, I mean the whole time when the other cop that was there with him says, I'm leaving for the night unless you want me to stay. And he goes, no, go ahead and go. I'm like, no!
Like, why? Why are you leaving him alone?
But at the same time, like, I get that in that they don't think this guy is actually anything important. They just think he's some kind of weirdo.
Yeah, they don't think he's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But there's policies that are in effect so that shit can't happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Agree with that, but can I also point out that he's telling you that he's taking you to go see where a serial killer is dumping their bodies, and so at very least, it's his father and his brother were serial killers, and you're going with him in the middle of the night. Yeah. He's wearing handcuffs, but still, like, I get it.
Yeah.
He's an FBI agent. He thinks he can handle any situation.
Absolutely. So yeah, so he
covered up the brother of his own mother.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Powers Booth's character thinks he can get away with stuff because he has gotten away with it for so long. But then that leads into like our third reveal in a row, which is, oh, and by the way, the whole like demon thing might actually be true. And Dad was crazy, but also not wrong. I loved that because, again, that sounds like it shouldn't work, but I feel like it really did. Dredd, what did you think of that particular part of it, of actually revealing, no, there's something supernatural going on? Because Adam was seeing this when his dad would touch these people, and he sees it in people as well.
Well, that was an interesting choice. I did appreciate it because you could just show the flashes and the images, and you're like, okay, it's still in their head, it's fine. But then you also have the FBI people looking at the videotapes, and the tapes are like, okay,
yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, because they're actually being protected.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, doubt, maybe, I guess. So
And then
well
the
done on
handshake
that.
at the end.
Oh yeah. Also that, yeah, he saw him and he just nope.
You're a good agent.
Oh yeah.
So interesting thing on that real quick is, so he never Powers Booth doesn't put the handcuffs on Adam, right? He tosses them to him. Adam puts them on himself. And then he goes to like do the head, duck his head to get into the car. And he refuses that. And you can kind of read that as like, no, don't, whatever. He doesn't want him to touch him yet. Because if he makes physical contact with him, it's going to give up the game.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing. You don't think about that in the moment. And then you start thinking about that afterwards of like, oh shit. Okay. That's a really, I think, just a clever storytelling bit that you notice when you watch it later. So I really enjoyed that. And then, the handshake right at the end. Plus, I think also the reveal that he's the sheriff of the small town was great, because there's that line earlier when the FBI calls the small town and his wife answers, which we don't know is his wife at the time. And she says like, yeah, he, no, Fenton. Oh yeah, no, he stole an ambulance and took his brother's body, but now he's telling you where he's taking you to find his brother's body, where he buried him, type of thing. Like all this was, I just really, really enjoyed. I loved how they twisted all that stuff up. Monica, how about you? Did you see any of those coming?
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm Wicked. Have I ever seen a twist coming? No, I did not. I mean, I figured he was gonna kill him, but the other stuff, not so much. It definitely was surprising that it's supposed to be, God, which is just, it's such a weird. It's weird for me to watch movies like this with religion in it, because it does, like, it's a realistic, terrifying situation, because there are people who think like this. There are people that this is based on a true story. Did you read that?
I did, loosely based,
Let's
but
not
yeah,
mention
there
what
was.
state that person was from, by the way. Let's not, because I am not crazy. But people do things like this, and then if you actually take the story and you break it down even more, like, okay, so like in the story it's God or whatever, but break that down even more, because if you are someone who believes in God, then you would think that God doesn't want you to kill people. So then really, what if this isn't God? What if this is something else that's protecting them from being caught, but having them kill people? Because would God want little children to destroy demons, to have this be like, it gets so. And so, yeah, so I did a lot of thinking about this movie. A lot of thinking.
Which
I went around in a whole circle of that shit. And like how everything that he did to destroy these demons, perpetuated the one son going in the same line of work, but it also made the other son become a killer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Boom! That's my mind blown. Sorry.
It's what I love about this movie is that it makes you think about it afterwards, and you both want, like, I want more story, and I also just like what it is and what it makes me think about. And it's really well put together. It's really well written. It's kind of crazy to think that Brett Hanley, who wrote this is like basically the only thing he has a credit for, is writing this screenplay. He wrote a short in 2007, and he was a writer for an episode of Masters of Horror, and that's it.
He did do some work on the movie Holes. I'm
Yeah,
putting quotes around that.
some revisions, but like with as well written as this is, you'd think he would have done at least one other like full length screenplay, but nothing else. It's just that blew my mind too. And that happens sometimes. I also, for a directorial debut, it was really good for Bill Paxton. Like he knew what he was doing, and he knew the type of movie that he wanted to make, which was kind of this old school Hollywood actor driven, character driven thing. And he didn't get over his skis and try to do too much and try to like get too fancy with it. It was very old school editing, lots of crossfade editing. I think also he was really, really smart. The director of photography for this was the same one that worked on Jaws. And this movie looked great.
Yeah. And on the other side of that, like he's, even though it's his directorial, I can't say those words together, directorial debut, he'd been around so many movies and knows so many, he could get. I'm not saying that makes it any less good. It's just that, like, that means he gets to work with some really good people, which helped propel this even higher. Because, yeah.
Oh yeah, because like he was taking notes and probably got advice from like James Cameron, right, or Sam Raimi, or whomever else he'd been in movies. I think he's in a Sam Raimi movie. I know he's been in almost every Cameron movie that was around. So like he'd worked with these directors, so he would have gotten information from them. And also, this was one that I thought was interesting. Was Roger Ebert loved this movie and praised it, like gave it a really high praise. But one of the things he said about it was that this was the type of movie that Bill Paxton, as a director, can take a little more risk in making his first movie, in terms of like what he makes and kind of how he does it, because he doesn't have to rely on a great film to then get another job. He can still act. If the directing thing doesn't work out, he can still go on and act and be fine with that. So he can take some more risks, which I think gives you, I feel like that would be very freeing as a director to just kind of go for it. And it worked. By the way, Bill Butler was the cinematographer for this. He also, like I said, worked on a whole bunch of movies that looked great. The chief among them, Jaws, which is why it was cool to see the dolly zoom, the push-pull shot right at the end.
Are you going to do the trivia about James Cameron?
Which trivia about James Cameron? Go for it. You tell me.
So apparently James Cameron kind of like looked at the story that Brent had written and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it's written, it shows you when the dad touches the person, it shows them.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's real.
Mm-hmm.
And that James Cameron said, don't do that right away. Put that at the end. Make that a big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Smart.
Very.
I mean, you still get the shock, but you don't see the flashes.
Yeah.
Well, and
the shock would just be him pretending, basically.
Imagine getting advice from James Cameron. Come on.
But like,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And
like that.
And to your point, Dredd, like it reinforces the idea that dad's crazy and the boys are in danger, and you siding with Fenton because you're not seeing what him and Adam are seeing. And on top of that, I loved how they shot that, because most of the movie is very simply shot and there's not a ton of crazy camera movement. But then anytime he would touch someone, they were handheld and it got a little bit shaky, which was something Paxton said when they first shot it. They had like the camera kind of locked off, and he said it looked like Plan 9 from outer space. Like it just looked silly with him kind of shaking around and vibrating. So they added in the handheld idea and shaking that just a little bit, just to make it a little more frenetic, and that worked a lot. So I love that. I did capture some audio though, because there was a ton of there's a ton of Matthew McConaughey stuff here. I love his voice. Like, he's got that Texas drawl that he's got is great.
Buy a Lincoln.
Did I tell you the last time I was in Chicago, they were filming a Lincoln commercial in downtown Chicago while I was there, and we kept looking for him every night when we'd be walking to our job site. They'd have everything set up, and we're always like, he might be driving that Lincoln right now, but I don't think he was. So here's a smattering of some Matthew McConaughey lines from this. We'll play them and kind of talk about them a little bit, but I just liked a lot of these.
It started back in Thurman. It was near the summer of 1979.
He just has that laid back, just cool delivery. Also, Thurman, by the way, not a real town. It was originally set in, or they were going to set it in Tyler, Texas, which is a real small town. But Paxton decided, like, I don't think that's a great idea, because, as he put it, there was an actual rose garden in Tyler, Texas. And so his worry was like, we're going to have a bunch of goth kids going out there trying to dig up bodies. Maybe we don't do that. So they changed it to Thurman, Texas. And I think that was a smart move.
Are the goths digging now?
I don't know, but
I feel like they'd hang around there definitely, but I don't know if they'd buy shovels. They might mess up the makeup.
Prefer just hanging out in the cemetery at night.
Yeah. This is not the way to start a conversation with an FBI agent.
Listen, this may sound a little bit crazy, but
don't lead with that. Okay? Because it's just never going to go well. So yeah, I just like that. This was okay.
In movies, they seem to all the time.
Right? Now, this might sound crazy, but well, all right, you're crazy. Let's go. Lock them up. So we get when Fenton is put in the basement for a week, and I just like this delivery.
And by the sixth day, that hole was as dark and deep as my hatred for Dad's God.
That's real good. That's real good.
Yeah, and now think about it, that wasn't actually Fenton saying that.
It's not Fenton saying that. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Messes with
He's
you.
Adam
just,
pretending to be Fenton.
Yeah, because that reveal too, that like he went after Fenton because Fenton was on his list. And
finally,
you get all sorts of stuff like okay, this one's called Doubt.
You hadn't even heard me out yet, and already you doubt me.
I liked that, because like that's the second thing he says to him. This might sound crazy, but
you're gonna doubt me already?
Yeah,
I said this might sound crazy.
So this was, I had to capture this just because I just love this.
Meeks. Name's Fenton Meeks.
Tell me,
Bond. James Bond.
Tell me that you
James
didn't
Bond.
think of, because then later on in the movie we get this line from someone.
Sounds fake. Fenton Meeks.
Yeah, it sounds like a fake name. Like a made up, like somebody, like a kid making up a name is what it sounded like to me for some reason.
I did like when they said that line. It sounded like a fake name. And then the next scene, it just flashes to them at the house yelling, we're coming in, please.
Fenton, we're coming in. I like that. Yeah, that was good. Again, this is all of these you have to think about through the lens of, this is Adam, the one who believed in his dad, but telling the story as Fenton. But I absolutely love, I love this.
I loved him, even if he had gone crazy.
Because I totally get that. I can buy that from a kid.
Yeah.
Like, my dad's gone crazy, but I still love him. But he's nuts.
It was so much easier for him though, because then he did start seeing the visions for real right away.
Sure.
So then,
Mm-hmm.
because he was younger.
Yeah,
He just believed. Like I feel like if Fenton was younger, he would have also. It just he was at that age where you question too much.
Yeah, I mean, Adam even made his own list.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
oh yeah, and you
I
know
might
we
have
get.
I might have a
had to wait
sample
till
of
God
that.
put him on my list. To come before that would have been murder.
Like he knew what his brother was doing, but because he wasn't on the list, he couldn't do anything about it because that would have been murder. Can't murder.
Dredd, did you have a list too, Dredd?
Well, I'm waiting if Travis sampled that or not.
Go ahead, Travis.
So this was another one of the lists.
How did you know?
You were on my list.
You were on my
That's
list,
creepy sounding.
isn't it?
All right,
You
that
really-
the last scene with his axe, right?
Uh-huh.
Like that last. Oh my god, that shot is so good.
Yeah, it is.
Just a
All right.
slam.
What have you got with revolving around a list there, Dredd?
Oh, the best of the lists.
Isn't Travis Shed that boy was picking on you at school last week?
He's a demon.
Yeah, Travis.
My last name's not.
You're a demon.
Yeah, I
knew
caught
it.
that. I didn't capture it. Figured you would. I also loved. I loved this.
Man, I love small towns.
Because,
I love small town.
but again, think about that in the context of the first time you're watching the movie. It's he's saying that as like the whatever, small towns are weird. Then if you think about it, he knows who the Powers Booth talked to. He already knows all of this. So it's just he's using the small town to his advantage. I just like that.
Yep, 100%. Especially being the sheriff
Mhm.
makes it real easy to cover things up.
That's
And not
true.
press charges against himself.
Right? Oh,
He said he'd had a vision that night. A vision from God.
yeah, okay, sure he did. And then we find out, well, he had a vision. We don't know what exactly it was from, but he had a vision for sure. And they also play with, like, again, for most of the movie, it's a lot of
You see, to him, he hadn't killed a woman, he had destroyed a demon.
making Dad crazy because he's not killing anybody; he's destroying demons. And
Until the sheriff.
yeah, until the sheriff, which again, credit to Bill Paxton and his performance, right? Because the first demon, he's reluctant, but he goes through with it. By the second guy, he kind of jumps into it real quickly before he can start to doubt himself. But the sheriff, he's like, Paxton is playing it genuinely frightened. And then as soon as he hits him with the axe, like, he loses it and starts to throw up from what he's done. It was a really good performance.
Yeah.
And I loved even like I caught some Bill Paxton stuff too. But what were you going to say?
Yay. Oh, go ahead. Finish your clippies.
Okay. Because I love some of these.
But the angel said I had to do it now.
Oh, I
That's
miss
just
him.
I do. That was like my second or third note in my notes for watching this was I miss Bill Paxton, followed by and I miss Powers Booth. I liked both of them. They both
They
passed
died
away in
the same year.
2017,
Yeah.
and they had
That's
worked
crazy.
together prior to this movie on Tombstone.
There's another movie I haven't seen.
I also there was this one.
If I could spare you this, I would. But we are God's servants, and his will must be served.
I labeled that as crazy talk because it's crazy talk.
Yep.
But he's also apparently actually being given information. Like, it's just
Yeah.
really screws with your head. And again, you got that crazy talk, and then the sheriff thing happens, and he's yelling at his kid.
Do you understand what you made me do? You made me commit murder!
I didn't make you do anything.
Yeah, well,
Depends on your
still.
point of view.
Yeah, it does.
So we're like superheroes?
That's right.
Just totally. Like, the kid was in from the moment he was in from jump. We're superheroes. That's all he had to hear, and Adam was all about it. What was?
What does get me, though, is why would he make up such a crazy story?
That was the one time with the sheriff. I'm like, okay, you're not completely 100% a moron. Why would the kid make up the story? But maybe, I don't know, believe him first.
Yeah, we gotta remember that
Small town.
79 was a different time back then.
Oh, I know.
And my God, if it was nowadays, I'd like to believe, with quotes around that, I'd like to believe that the cop would check things out. Although technically he did eventually check things out.
But like, if he has any doubt, because he's like, maybe we should check out that shed, would you then walk in front of the guy?
Right.
Second, go downstairs into a basement.
Oh, God.
Not the
behind
smartest.
him, or not in front of him. No.
Yeah.
No. And so you got like, we had the moment where he's yelling at Fenton, you know, you made me commit murder and all that. But then later on, after Fenton has spent a week in the hole, right? Nailed in there, by the way. That was, I'm like, he's nailing him in. And he has to come out and pull the nails out to open the door to check on him and then nail him back in there. But after all that, and Fenton has come around, right? And he's had his vision and all of that, which you kind of, sort of can see like, yeah, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, type of thing. But then they get the last demon, right? They go to that guy's house and he's a total douchebag. And they bring him back to the basement, and here's Fenton with the axe and his dad looking at him saying,
I've been waiting for this moment ever since all this started.
Like, as a kid, I could totally buy that they were the fact that like, this is what he wants. He just wants to be accepted by his dad. You know, and
I'm proud of you, son.
All of that, like he's getting all this praise from his dad, and he still turns on him. And his dad, having said earlier, like, I'm scared of you, right? Because the angel told him that he's a demon, that Fenton is a demon, and he doesn't want to believe it. All of that for how it all played out is great. Like it's just so well done. So yeah, I mean, this is a movie. It's just one that not enough people have seen. I'm really glad the three of you got to see it, because I just feel like more people need, like, I feel like this is one that should be on a lot of lists, because it's a really good, creepy ass horror movie. It really is.
Dredd keeps saying it's not a horror movie.
Nah.
It's a thriller, but that's still a part of the horror.
That's a subset
umbrella.
of horror.
Yeah. But even so, here was my thought, because he compared it to movies like Fallen and
No, I said IMDb compares it to.
Oh, whatever. IMDb compared it to like Fallen and Arlington Road, and I would say Arlington Road is a pure thriller because it has nothing in it that's like demony, religious, supernatural, or anything like that. It's just kind of like a crime, whatever the hell was going on in that movie. That one confused. But you know, whereas like Fallen, it's got like demony type things in it or something. Let's not go into detail.
It's
let's not spoil another older movie.
Now, I will say, like, I can see the comparisons to Fallen, which is another movie I love. I absolutely love Fallen. And I can see a little bit comparisons to something like Arlington Road, but I would put, like, Arlington Road is a thriller. And this is a thriller, but this is a horror thriller. There's horror elements to it, not just the supernatural parts of it, but also this, like, there's a different type of existential dread that goes on in a movie.
Yeah.
Like this versus an Arlington Road type thriller. Like, you can have a thriller without it being horror, and you can have horror without it being a thriller, but you can have the two cross. And I think this one does. So
just to complete IMDb's more like this, it'll lead back to your Sam Raimi link. A Simple Plan.
Yeah, that also
directed by Sam Raimi and starring Bill Paxton.
So he had been in that, and I'm sure he took stuff from that. One other breadcrumb Easter egg thing that kind of gives away a little more info is Adam, or Fenton, when he gets the phone call at the beginning, he's sitting at home drinking a beer, just like his dad would do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, he's taken up, the mantle. I just remembered that.
Yep.
Only shirtless.
I'd take up that mantle.
So yeah, I mean, that's Frailty. It's a hell of a movie, and it's kind of a bummer that Paxton only directed 2 movies, this and The Greatest Game Ever Played, the one with Shia LaBeouf, the golf movie.
Yeah.
Because
I
he
never saw that.
obviously has some ability behind the camera, and he does well with actors because he got a hell of a performance out of both those kids. So I'm glad that the 3 of you got to see it. And now, Monica, when I mention Frailty, you'll know what movie I'm talking about, and it's not Frequency.
Yeah. It was between Frequency and there's another one where John Travolta plays like the stepfather of this kid, but his real father is like a good guy played by somebody else I can't remember. And then John Travolta's bad in it or something. Like
I vaguely remember what that one is. I can't think of the title right now, but I know what you're talking about.
I just remember kids on the side of a mountain for some reason. They're a lighthouse.
Excellent.
I like how you thought I would remember Frailty eventually, but someday it's going to fade off into the distance as well.
Oh, I'm sure it will. And then I'll just remind you, no, we watched that. We watched it. We talked about it. And I can replay this episode for you.
33.
Now, this is the start of our spooky month. We're gonna keep doing this because it's always fun to do that. But we like to have kind of different subsets of horror. And so next week, we're going to actually go into one of my favorite types of horror, which is horror anthologies, because I love short form horror. Because I think you can experiment more and have like just more interesting little snippets of story. So I love anthologies, and we're going to do an anthology. I haven't seen this one before. I don't know. I'm sure at least one of you has. I'm guessing all 3 of you have seen it, but we're going to watch VHS because I've never seen that one. Have all 3 of you seen that?
I've seen it recently.
Okay.
So
I have.
Within the last year we watched it.
It's not been that long, yeah, no.
Or less than a year. So it's not that long ago. And I wasn't, sure I'd like it.
Long time ago.
No. We've only seen the first one.
Because it not only is
that
it
may
an
be a spoiler.
anthology, I want to point out it is found footage.
Right.
Which is
one of the few found footages that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
So
don't give it away yet.
So here we go. So yeah, so that'll be an interesting one to talk about next week, because I know, other than it being found footage anthology, I know nothing else about this. And I just know that they made at least a couple of sequels. I think they've made several now, right?
Yeah, there's like 12 now.
With a new one coming out.
So that'll be next week's as we continue the GORE podcast crossover with Wait You Haven't Seen, VHS. Monica, Takeover. Tell people about GORE, the podcast that is taking over for the month.
Yes, hello. I am from the podcast GORE. We're a horror movie podcast, and we cover horror movies, but we also do all sorts of crazy stuff on the show because we're wild and crazy guys. I stole that from SNL. But yeah, you can go to gorepodcast.com and you can check out our episodes. You can actually download them there. You can check out what any of the hosts are doing, which one of them is Travis, just so you know. Yeah, you can do stuff on go to the website. You don't need me to explain.
Gorepodcast.com.
Gorepodcast.com. Yes.
Yeah.
Or follow us on Twitter and whatever.
Yeah. Listen, if you enjoy us talking about horror movies, we do a lot of that there, including our wonderful The 13, our favorite tropes and things. That's always fun. I love looking for that stuff when I'm watching movies. I really do enjoy that. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
We shout it out.
Volkswagen!
Volkswagen!
And our lovely skits.
Yes.
Yes. The synopsis is...
What? That is the most serious business ever.
Absolutely.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And if you want to hear any of that, you got to go to gorepodcast.com. Excellent. Well, until next week in VHS, which I'm finally checking off my list, this has been the Gore Podcast Takeover Part 1 for 2024. So be excellent to each other.
What's he doing there?
You know him?